continue to discuss, because, Zeidon, if we're talking about Iraq and the situation there, again, it is corruption, and it's said that, ever since, the overthrow of Saddam Hussein in 2003, the government structure is such that corruption is almost just impossible to ignore, and it just occurs on a daily basis and is a regular reality of life for many Iraqis, and even politicians just living off, be it money coming from the outside or money that's being made from within the country. What do you make of that, and how or not has the government tackled that?
Absolutely, Waqar. The Iraqi protests are based and triggered by poor public services, whether it be education, healthcare, social services. There are so many facts and figures that weren't improved but got worsened since 2003, with empty promises within every single election campaigns. The youth unemployment is 25%. People are protesting against corruption, militant and political sectarianism. There are around 2 million orphans in Iraq today, around 1.5 million internally displaced people from the ISIS war, which they took too long to end. There is a 96.4% of Iraqis that are without health insurance. There is only an Iraqi governmental-run public health care system with little advocacy or diversity of treatment options. Illiteracy in one of the most educated countries in the world today is 39% within the rural population. And as you mentioned, from a structural perspective, the ethnic sectarian quota in Iraq is installed by a U.S. invasion in 2003, and it's still managed based on the interests of regional power players through their interest groups in Iraq, whether they be in the Iraqi government or whether they be the militias on the ground. Yeah. People are fed up by being governed by people they never really elected. There's an ethnic sectarian quota that forms the political negotiations after elections, regardless of whom got the highest votes in the elections. You could be the political coalition or party that got the highest votes in the polls, but you can end up being the opposition due to political negotiations and this very advanced parliamentary democracy that was enforced on the Iraqi people instead of having a presidential democracy to people who are new to democracy and elections. Looking at the events closer, the protests are mainly in Baghdad, Nasiriyah, and Amara, and a few other provinces. It was unfortunately met by violent crackdown and heavy security measures since day one. The protest began on Tuesday, as you may know, on October 1st, but the security measures were prepared the day before. As you mentioned, a curfew was imposed in Baghdad and other southern cities. Government blocked all networks of communication, including the internet and apps such as WhatsApp, Facebook, and Twitter. And ironically, the day before that, the Iraqi Prime Minister, Adel Abdel Mahdi, promised to provide jobs to the youth. And the irony or the contradiction here is interesting, because he would promise jobs and better opportunities to the unemployed young people, but the day after that, he would deprive them from the right of having a voice, from their right of the freedom of movement on the streets. Another interesting factor to really...
If I may, Zeidon, I apologize for interrupting you, just because I wanted to, in fact, take some of the things that you've